Hi, and welcome to the Beer and Eggs podcast. My name is Jessica, and I'm here with my husband Ryan.
Hello.
And we're in a series where we read through the Gospel of Luke one chapter a day until Christmas.
Yep, we're on chapter 6.
And today we're doing chapter 6.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you
Go
ready?
for it, Ryan.
Now it happened that Jesus was passing through some grain fields on a Sabbath, and his disciples were picking the heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands, and eating them. But some of the Pharisees said, "Why are you doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And Jesus answering them said, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry? He and those who were with him. How he entered the house of God and took and ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful for anyone to eat except for the priests alone, and gave it to his companions. And he was saying to them, The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. On another Sabbath he entered the synagogue and taught, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. Now the scribes and Pharisees were watching him closely to see if he healed on the Sabbath, so that they might find a reason to accuse him. But he knew what they were thinking. And he said to the man with the withered hand, Get up and come forward. And he got up and came forward. And Jesus said to them, I ask you whether it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath, or to do harm, to save a life, or to destroy it. And after looking around at them all, he said to him, Stretch out your hand. And he did so, and the hand was restored. But they themselves were filled with senseless rage, and began discussing together what they might do to Jesus. Now it was at this time that he went off to the mountain to pray, and he spent the whole night in prayer with God. And when day came, he called his disciples to him, and chose 12 of them, whom he also named as apostles: Simon, who he had also named Peter, and his brother Andrew, and James and John, and Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus. Is that how you say that?
I'm assuming.
Alphaeus. And Simon, who was called the Zealot, and Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. And then Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place, and there was a large crowd of his disciples, and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem, and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled by unclean spirits were being cured. And all the people were trying to touch him, because power was coming from him and healing them all.
And he lifted up his eyes on the disciples and said, Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you who are hungry, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you and revile you, and spurn your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For so their fathers did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you shall be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for so their fathers did to the prophets. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. And as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies, and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful even as your Father is merciful. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use it will be measured back to you. He also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its fruit. For figs are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? Everyone who comes to me and hears my words and does them, I will show you what he is like. He is like a man building a house, who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when a flood arose, the stream broke against the house that could not shake it, because it had been well built. But the one who hears and does not do them is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the steam broke against it, immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. Thoughts?
That's deep.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
convicting.
Yeah, I guess we'll start at the beginning. It's a good place to start. Sorry. So again, we see these Pharisees that are just kind of hounding on everything Jesus does. Like, they're watching so closely that they're like, see those disciples? They're walking through a field. Are they going to break a rule on the Sabbath? You know?
I love his answer. The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting. It's like, is it not lawful to do good on the Sabbath? Is it lawful to do evil on the Sabbath? Like, what you're saying you can't do anything, because what they're saying is you can't do anything. They're even abstaining from good things that they could be doing.
Right.
You know, and that's evil. So it's just, yeah. It's so, and then they were filled with rage. Senseless rage is what mine says.
What verse is that?
11. They were filled with senseless rage.
Mine says fury.
Fury, yeah, and began discussing together what they might do to Jesus.
They're like, we got to take care of this guy.
So they're like,
he's a problem for us.
He's healing people on the Sabbath. We should imprison him or kill him. Like, can you imagine?
It's so wild to think that kind of logic could come out of that. Like, you know what I mean? This guy is healing people, and you're going to try to stop him? Like, obviously, that power comes from God. Mm-hmm. What else in their
I think we do the same thing when
when
we scoff at people, though.
What
you know what I mean? Like, not like to murder anyone or anything, but when we do the same thing when we think about people that we don't like coming to Christ, or like actually following the verses that follow this story, where it's like praying for your enemies and hoping that they come to see the truth.
Oh yeah. That's hard stuff.
And what we're doing when we're not praying for them in that way, we're hoping for their destruction.
Right.
And that's the reality of it, right? If you're looking at someone and you have hatred for them in your heart, and you don't want to offer goodwill to them in any way or tell them the truth, then you're hoping for their destruction in eternity. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I haven't taken that seriously enough in my life. But that's really what you're doing, you know? Yeah.
And, well, I like verse 36 where it says, be merciful even as your Father is merciful. So the reason we can give mercy and love our enemies is because when we were enemies with God, he loved us. Mm-hmm. And so
and
we
was
are to
merciful
be
with us.
imitators of our God
Mm-hmm.
because, we're his workmanship. We should be showing him to the lost world.
Mm-hmm. I, yeah,
And that's challenging for sure.
yeah. It's interesting how I see people use verse 37.
Oh, yes.
They're always, everyone's always like, don't
The
judge.
golden verse.
Yeah, because you'll, you know, do
Well,
not judge
and
and you
then
will
the
not be
very next
judged.
verse it says, for with the measure you use it, it will be measured back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a warning to basically be fair in your judgment, not to not judge, but to be really wise and discerning about what you're doing so you aren't a hypocrite.
Well, so the line I would draw there, right, is there are things that are wrong, right,
Right.
that are judged by God
Mm-hmm.
to be wrong. And you can say, this is wrong because God says it's wrong. This particular part is talking about you judging people. So have you judged against someone else that they've wronged you? You've decided that they've wronged you in some way, right? At least
Mm-hmm.
that's how I read this. And you're condemning them because of that judgment that you've made upon them. Instead, we should pardon when we are wronged.
Oh, right. Because, yeah, vengeance is ultimately the
Mm-hmm.
Lord's.
So this verse in my mind is talking about you making a judgment on someone, not calling out someone who's doing something
Mm.
wrong that God has said is wrong.
That's a really great way to put that verse in context because we had just read about loving your enemies. So,
Mm-hmm.
say an unbeliever comes up to you and does something just extremely offensive and horrible. Are you going to say, oh, well, they're going to get what they deserve? Like, they're done for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or are you going to
Mm-hmm.
pray for them
Well, and I think it
or show them mercy
it
and
goes
love?
further, right? So it talks about a person who's blind cannot guide another who's blind. They'll both fall into a pit. So, in that same note, you cannot save that person
Right.
because you are just as blind as they are, right? And a student's not above a teacher. Um, so we should be pointing people to the one who is not blind,
Mm-hmm.
right? And his standard is objective truth. So if his standard is truth and he's the one who's not blind, you can point to him all day and not be in this, not be leading, guiding someone
Mm-hmm.
who is blind. Guiding someone, I feel like this part would be like if I was like, oh, you know, I don't even know. Like if you were relying on me to fix something and in both of our brokenness we're just falling into a pit. You know what I mean? Instead of relying on God, the one who
Mm-hmm.
can guide us out of that. And it, it even though, and then another one people like to use is the speck that's in your brother's eye, but you don't know the log that's in your own eye. But then they don't follow it up, right, with the next one.
Yeah, is that
And
just
it's
sit
like,
around and do nothing? Who are you to tell
no,
me what
it
to do?
says take the log out
Yeah.
of your eye. Then you will see clearly to take out the speck that's in your brother's eye. So yes, self-reflect and
Make sure your heart's in the right
make sure your
place.
heart's in the right place and
And then
don't,
go help your
yeah,
brother.
and then go help your brother because you do see clearly when God takes that log out of your eye. Then you can help your brother. It's not just like, oh, don't do anything because you have a log in your
Yeah.
eye.
You're both messed up, so just deal with it.
Yeah. So it's
Just
like,
accept it.
no.
It's like, no, actually take care of it
Mm-hmm.
in the
Anyways,
appropriate way.
and then build good houses. I'm just kidding.
Build your house on the rock.
Mm-hmm.
The kids and I love singing that song. The Sunday school song. The wise man built his house upon the rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a good one.
And this is just reiterating, do these things in which I'm telling you. Build your house upon this rock.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just try to do things on your own, because Jesus is the rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, it says, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? When he
Mm-hmm.
is your Lord, you do obey him. You do what you follow him. That's what him being your Lord is.
Well, and it's part of that submission, right? If he's your Lord,
Yeah.
then
If
he
you're
has
not
authority over you.
if you're not submitting to him, then you're not actually like regarding him as your Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, some pretty sobering verses here. Good for reflection.
Mm-hmm. For everybody.
Yeah, every single person. That's a good chapter.
There's so much in here.
You know, I've heard a lot taught on the Beatitudes.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize it was kind of surrounded by these other parables and sayings and commands of Christ. So that really kind of puts it into some perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's blessing. It's like Psalm 1. Whoever heeds these words, these are the blessings that you get from that. Oh, I have one more thought.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 24 says, "Woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation." Not to point out the obvious, but it's not a sin to be rich.
No.
So how would you appropriately apply that verse?
So there are other parts where it says it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than for a camel to pass through like the eye of a needle or something crazy like that. Let me go look it up specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that is?
I don't know exactly where it is. But I do look down and it says, "Woe to you who are full now." And I think it has a lot to do with the heart. Like, if your heart is seeking contentment and joy in earthly things, you have no room for Christ in all of that. If you're filling your hands and holding on to all of this stuff, whatever it may be, there's no room for Christ. It's Christ or the world, essentially.
Yeah, so in Matthew 19:23 through 25, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I say to you, it will be hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." And when the disciples heard this, they were astonished and said, "Then who can be saved?" So the disciples, majority of them were not rich.
No.
And yet all of them were like, who can be saved? So the term here, I've heard it explained, is it's someone who is seeking, right? If your heart is full
And you're not searching for
and
God,
you're not
right?
searching for God, which in Romans we find no one is. No one seeks to do good, right?
Mm-hmm. Then who can be saved?
Then who can be saved, right? So the idea here is that woe to those who, if you look at it in contrast to the rest of the of that of this chapter, blessed are you who are poor, the ones who are hungry. Blessed are you when people hate you. These are all people in circumstance that they are seeking redemption.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
And
they've been brought low by
Mhm.
God, emptied to be filled
to
with
be filled.
Him.
But those who are rich haven't been brought low.
Mm-hmm.
And it is difficult to seek God when you have not been honestly blessed with some of these other situations,
Mm-hmm.
which is why you're going to be rewarded later on. The people that are persecuted,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a little mind-boggling, isn't it?
yeah. But so it's not to say that it's a sin to be rich
Right. Mm-hmm.
or to have things. Like majority of Americans compared to this time that we're talking about now would be exceedingly wealthy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even in the world today appear exceedingly wealthy compared to other parts of the world. And you wonder why it's often difficult to get people or for people to be receptive to the gospel here
Mm-hmm.
fully, because a lot of a lot of us will take all the benefits of a church, right? Community,
Mm-hmm.
fellowship, a place that you can belong to.
Support
You'll
when
feel
you
good
need it.
about doing good things,
Helping people.
but
Yeah.
are you seeking God in all of that? Are you submitting yourself to his word, or are you trying to look good?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of that in the American church, I would say.
I would think so, yeah. I've heard stories of missionaries who've been, in third world countries, and they come here and they're like, I can't stand it here.
Yeah, because it feels so
Just
fake.
because, yeah, people are just so not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone, obviously, but
No. And there's people that,
there's a lot of it here.
and I think everyone struggles with that in a sense, right? Am I doing this to the glory of God, or am I doing this for my own fulfillment?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like you're in that corner and we're in this corner or whatever. Everyone struggles with this. And it's something to think about when you're reading this. Am I hungry? No. Right? Do people hate me? No.
So
And it says,
you would
woe
read
to you.
that as like physically hungry then, because I always
Well,
interpreted that as
I
like
would read it as
spiritually.
both, right?
Both, yeah.
Because when have you been like really hungry?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever really been like extremely hungry
Your spirits,
where like food is not
yeah.
immediately available.
When you're hungry, you're in pain,
Mhm.
and it affects your mind a lot. You're seeking that food, that nourishment, and I think it applies on both. It could
Mhm.
apply physically and spiritually. Are you spiritually hungry?
Yeah.
You know, and the hope is right. The blessing is that it says you will be satisfied
Right.
if you're hungry. You'll be blessed if when people hate you, not if people hate you, but when they do. If they insult you, exclude you, and scorn you on account of the Son of Man,
Which is Jesus.
which is Jesus. So when we're in the world and people scoff at us for what we believe,
That means that we're in Christ. That
yeah.
means they see Christ in us. That's
But
why
the
we can
flip side
rejoice.
is to that, right? Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for their fathers used to treat the false prophets the same way. So if you're vying for the approval of man, it's a woe to you
Mhm.
because you're deceived. You're not showing God in that. You're glorifying yourself with the
Mhm.
approval of
The
other
world
people's.
likes it because it just sees itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all of these things are things that everyone can, you know, reflect on and really, test yourself. What is the reason I'm doing the things that I do? Why am I part of this community? If you're in a church, why am I not a part of a church community? Am I hungry? You know, both physically or spiritually. And ask yourself where your heart's at and all of these things.
Right. It's not just a list of go try really, really hard to do all these things perfectly. It's really reflect on your life. Do you see the fruit of these things in your life? If not, turn to Christ.
Well, and it changes.
And even if you do, continue seeking Christ.
Well, and it changes. You have all these different seasons, right? Where you might be doing well in one part
Oh, yeah.
and not well in other parts. But I would argue that these verses are not about individual groups of people. They are about you. Every one of these things, you might say, well, I'm not hungry, so that doesn't apply to me. I'm not poor, that doesn't apply to me.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of people break it down. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, this is consolation for the people that are hungry. Yeah. You know, this is consolation for the meek. This is consolation for whoever. And it's like, no. He's talking about you personally, where you're at right now, both spiritually and physically.
Mm-hmm.
And testing these things against yourself. But yeah, that's all I got.
That's a really good reflection on this chapter, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully it was correct.
I
always worry about that a little bit on these.
That's good. We always should. We shouldn't think that we're, just perfect in everything we say about scripture, but we're going to get things wrong sometimes, but I really benefited from what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn the other cheek.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Ryan, for talking with me about chapter 6.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for listening. We'll be here again tomorrow. And I'm really enjoying this. It seems like a lot to hop on here every single day, but then we get to actually recording and I'm like, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
It's very fulfilling.
It is. Yeah. And it's helping me get in the habit of reading scripture every day again.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Anything else?
All right. No, that's it.
Okay.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Now go serve your king.
Oh, yeah. Until tomorrow, go serve your king.
We're ripping off Wretched.
Oh, wait, really quick.
Oh,
I
no.
heard, the theme song of Wretched,
Mm-hmm.
Wretched Radio. I heard that same music on some other random video I was watching. And I'm like, oh, they used copyright free music. It's not like their own original thing.
You think we wrote our intro music? No. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.